Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Parenting in the Far North. I'm your host, Aaron Bureau. Today's guest is Justin Williams. He wears many hats, working for Alaska Children's Trust. He's a graphic designer, a food reviewer, and also one half of the What's Up Alaska podcast with Blaze Bell, among many other things. He's also a single parent to a beautiful 9-year-old girl and is here to just kind of share his experiences of fatherhood. So please welcome to the podcast, Justin Williams. Thanks for being here with me.
I'm happy to be in this seat. This is an honor, for sure.
I always get excited when we get the guys in here. We've had a few, so hopefully hearing your voice, you can, rally some of those dads to come on.
Absolutely.
Well, first, before we kind of dive into, parenthood, first just let folks know a little bit more about you. Who is Justin Williams, and are you from here? Are you born and raised Alaskan?
For better or for worse, I was born and raised in Alaska. I'm the only one of my family born and raised in Alaska.
Really?
My entire family, my mom, dad, and older brother are from the East Coast. So my dad's ex-military. Coming up here, it's just a different type of pace. It's a different kind of serenity. My mom's from Queens.
Oh, okay.
So for her, it's a different kind of pace. You know what I mean? It's like the perfect place for someone who's an ambivert, someone who's an introvert. It's peaceful, it's serene, it's calm, it's beautiful. My dad's a professional painter, and so the inspiration that he finds up here is radically different than what he found in South Carolina, where he's born, So, I was born and raised up here in 1989. Clark Middle School, Bartlett all 4 years, Golden Bears.
Okay, I'm a Mustang, but I'll let that slide.
We gotta,
right.
we gotta fight now.
You're right up the street. I did have a lot of friends that went to Bartlett, so yeah.
For sure, it's a good school, for sure. And then, I started out at UAA as an art major for 2 years. Then I switched to sociology and graduated in 2015, where I had my baby. Diana Rose Williams.
Oh, it's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Diana Rose. So
Diana,
sweet.
Yeah. Rose is kind of everyone has that as a middle name, you know what I mean? But I just like roses. I can't help it.
Well, there you go.
But I just wanted something, like a name that was really regal and that really meant something. I have a family name. It's Ezel.
Okay.
And her mother's family name is Michael. And so I begged her, whether we had a son or a daughter, please let's not use Ezel or Michael. Let's fresh start.
Just decide a new one. Okay.
Just something brand new, Let her walk her own path. And so I feel like her name represents that.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so you wear many hats. I know we'll get into the podcast a little bit, but Alaska Children's Trust, you also do graphic design, you're a food reviewer. What are you into right now?
Oh my gosh, I feel like my hand is in everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're an entrepreneur, or when you're playing with the entrepreneurial space, it almost becomes a prerequisite that you learn how to juggle very well. Yeah. Parents know this, whether you're a single parent, step parent, any parent knows you got to juggle.
Yeah.
And when you're an artist and you have a lot of different passions, you start to get really good at energy regulation. You start to be just very sensitive and aware of the things that attack and annoy your peace and the things that you need to do in order to protect it. And for me, I need artistic outlets. I need to get out there, meet people, network with people, and just be my authentic self doing things that I enjoy doing. So especially when COVID happened, that was really tough because we were stuck in our houses. And it was really messy. And at the time, me and my then wife were going through a divorce. So being stuck in the same house together was really rough. We had to learn how to raise our baby together while figuring out how we're going to deal with the separation coming into 2021 and things like that. But when it came, again, to that entrepreneurial space, we teach each other things. I taught her graphic design. She taught me basically anything about how to run your own business.
That's awesome.
And the Justin Eats thing, the food review, was actually her idea. She's the one that kept pushing me to do it, and for the longest time I was like, "No, that's dumb. I don't want to do that." But then when I tried it, it blew up, right? Yeah. And transferring that to other platforms outside of Facebook has been a really fun challenge, and it's allowed me to get to know everyone from restaurateurs to politicians. I've been on the news, I've been in the paper. It's like it's a brilliant opportunity
And you get to eat some good food.
And I get to eat some
you're a
good food.
Reviewer.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you really swallowing it and trying the food? Some people are like, do you just taste it and it has to spit out?
Man, no.
What happens as a food reviewer?
As a food reviewer, yeah, because people don't know,
Yeah.
right? It's
You gotta
edited.
school 'em.
It's edited. So I gotta let people know I don't waste food.
Okay.
I don't waste food. If I really don't like it, either I won't post the review, or
well, don't you got to be honest?
I have to be honest though, because I'm very good with my words.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you know me, you'll know if I like something
Yeah.
or not. I'm not gonna play you like that. I'm just gonna
Right.
be very careful because food reviewers and influencers have the power to keep doors open and to close them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say don't come here because I didn't enjoy it. You feel me? I'm gonna say I want to get your opinion. Why don't you come here and let me know what you think?
I'm curious your thoughts on, obviously, Keith Lee on TikTok.
Yeah.
He blew up from just sitting at his daughter's little Mickey Mouse table. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
He's huge.
It's crazy how he blew up too, because a lot of people are doing the same thing that he's doing, but they don't have the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So figuring out the algorithm, figuring out your platform is really important too, right? I'm not gonna blow up on TikTok the way I blew up on Facebook. You feel me? So and everyone needs to do it a little bit different than Keith Lee did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
everyone
you gotta have
has
your own stick,
your own
spiel.
thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? And your own energy, your own vibe, your own humor. If you can't have the Keith Lee personality.
Yeah.
You have to be yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's what works with Keith. We kind of know a little bit about his life, who he was before as a food reviewer. We know about his family, And so it's like, oh, I feel like I would invite this dude to my home.
Right.
I feel like I want to go out to eat with him.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
Like
he seems
he's just
like a
super
good dude.
friendly. Like you want to just go have lunch with him or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
so that's how you want to present yourself with really any entrepreneurial thing. You just want to be a familiar face, but also be authentic.
Yeah. Well, speaking of entrepreneurial, the What's Up Alaska podcast, tell me how that came about and what is all that about? What is your content for that?
So the What's Up Alaska podcast was actually the brainchild of Blaze Bell, who is another one of his people.
She's amazing. I need to get her on.
Yeah, she has her hand in everything, and I spent 2 years as the host of, or one of the co-hosts of Hometown Alaska on Alaska Public Media, doing their radio show. And one of those shows, we were talking about addiction and recovery, and so we had Blaze Bell as a guest. And that was the first time that her and I met. When we were going to UAA, I knew her, because her and I are both musicians, and so, I knew her through certain circles, right? As an acquaintance of an acquaintance.
Right.
But we never really, connected or collaborated, so I didn't know her vibe. I didn't know who she was as a person. And so being on the radio together gave us both an opportunity to kind of, peek into one another and in that aspect.
We're vibing.
We're vibing, yeah. And I've been a podcaster since 2017, and she's also had a podcast at that same time doing it on her own. And so I want to say maybe 2.5 years ago, out of the blue, she just contacted me. And she was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me from, when you got me on the radio with you, but this is who I am. I have an idea for a podcast, and I want you to be my co-host. I want to do it together with you.
Nice.
So I was like, let's do it.
Less.
Look, say less. So we met at Pilates a month later.
Yeah.
We got our computers out, Excel spreadsheet. We talked about what we wanted to do. And we talked to a couple of people about event spaces, about podcasting, recording spaces, and we just got it done, So we've been recording for 2 years. And so What's Up Alaska is really about letting the people of Alaska know what's going on in Alaska.
Okay.
You feel me? Because a lot of people, it's kind of like the restaurant stuff. It's so interesting when I review a restaurant that I've been going to since I was a child, and other people that have been here their entire lives, comment or post, I've never even heard of that restaurant. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing that to me. And so in the scope of the podcast lens and What's Up Alaska, we want people to know, oh, I didn't know we had services like that here. I didn't know we had someone that was, that invested in digital equity. I had no idea that this person did this kind of thing or that kind of thing, this, in the music scene, in the comedy scene, in the art scene. And so we're getting people in that are doing big things in Alaska and leaving a legacy behind.
So your niche is the whole state, or the state, and
Yeah.
kind of what is going here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And guests, you guys are welcome guests. Are you in search of a particular guest, or?
No, not necessarily. We, for the first year, we agreed to stay away from politics and politicians.
Yeah.
And so that was our first year and our first season, and we've only had like one dude who was like involved in politics. But for the most part, we're looking for variety.
Yeah.
We're looking for people who are all different. We don't want to advocate for a completely homogenous space and atmosphere, right? Anchorage is one of the most racially diverse cities in North America. And so when you build off of that, we're like, okay, so how is it different in this area? How is it different in that area? And so we're able to, and the more authentic that we are, the more authenticity comes our way. And so people who don't really have this giant agenda, but are interested in getting the word out for their business or who they are, they find us.
Yeah.
You know?
And so folks can listen to you guys wherever they download podcasts.
So we have a website, whatsupalaskapod.com, but we also are on Spotify, and we're on Apple Podcasts, and we're on iHeartRadio. And so those are kind of our three big platforms right now. I don't remember the podcast statistics, but I want to say 60 to 70% of like podcast content is received through Apple. So like Apple's really, really big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, in the podcast space. And then I think the second most is Spotify. And so we want to push people towards those two platforms.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can find our show, What's Up Alaska, on those platforms.
All right. Well, you heard it. You got to download and listen.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump over to fatherhood. So you had mentioned your daughter, Diana. Diana. She's 9 years old. My daughter's 9. So I'm connected with you.
Hey.
Yeah. Her name is Amelia. Let's just go back 9 years ago. When you became a dad. Yeah. What was that like from your perspective?
So I'm going to tell a big story and condense it.
Okay.
Condense it. So this is a story of my daughter's birth. It's crazy. At the time, I was recording music with my boy in Eagle River, Allie. It's my ex-wife's name. She calls me, says, I think my water broke. I rush back to Anchorage. We go to Geneva Woods. Geneva Woods says, you need to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital. We keep her there overnight. We're like, oh my gosh, we're having a baby. We weren't expecting, right? Like everyone has a birthing plan, and then 90% of the time it goes awry.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So the next day, I get a call from my job at the time. I'm not gonna name no names, but I got a call at my job, and they said, "You need to come in." And I said, "I'm not coming in because my girl's about to have a baby." They threatened my employment. They said, you need to come in, otherwise you're fired. So I was like, I talked to my mom and I talked to her, and they were just like, go, it's nearby, to Providence Hospital. So I went and I did my thing, I did my notes. And then I was like, you know what? I need to be proactive. Let me go get a car seat. You know what I mean? That's what good dads do.
Yeah, I love that.
You feel me? And so I left my job at the time, and I was going to go to Target, right? Mm-hmm. And so in this street that I was about to enter, I looked to my left, and I was kind of clear. I looked to my right. And then the next thing I remember, I woke up in an ambulance.
Oh, no.
I do not remember the accident.
Oh, my goodness.
But I was in a little Blueberry, and I got T-boned by a Dodge Ram.
Oh, my gosh.
I broke my ribs, my lungs collapsed, and my tailbone was shattered. Glass, like, all in my face, tubes in my nose. It was like literally an episode of Grey's Anatomy. It was Allie's number one nightmare, right?
And it happened.
She was like, where are you? Where did you go? You know? And I got into this accident. And so now we're in the hospital together at the same time.
You're just on a different floor. Two different reasons. Oh,
two totally different reasons.
And she hasn't had the baby at this point.
No. She's just stressed
there, being
out.
monitored.
Yeah. And I can't even see her because I'm laid up too in another room. And at 4 a.m. the following morning, they gurney me down there, and I watch our baby be born. I'm like, it's it's crazy. I'm like holding her hand. We're both messed up on drugs, falling in and out of sleep, and this whole time, like she has her baby, and I have the memory of a 90-year-old man. Like I don't remember nothing, but I remember her birth like it was yesterday, and so like since becoming a father, especially because it started out so rough, it really, I think, prepared me to be a single dad, right? Because for that time she had to be a single mom because they got discharged. I'd stay in the hospital for a few more weeks, right? So karma, I don't know,
Oh,
balance,
man.
you know.
Yeah.
But being a dad changed my perspective on time, right? What matters, what doesn't matter. My older brother, just had his firstborn about a month ago, and so he and I are having these discussions as well. And I'm like telling him before the baby's born, I was like, look, man, there are some things that you think you care about now that are just not gonna matter anymore.
Absolutely.
You know, you're gonna have so much more capacity for love in your heart that you never thought possible. You are going to want to push people out, right? Because you're going to want to protect your
Yeah.
child, you
Yeah.
know? Even from people that you thought were friends, people who are a little too weird, a little too touchy, have certain habits, have certain, like, nah, you're just instinctively going to be her protector. You're going to become a superhero overnight, you know? So that's how I feel like fatherhood has really changed me. It's really hard to articulate, but it's the best thing in the whole world. I wouldn't change it for the world. You know?
Oh, that's an amazing, scary story, but that's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. The father-daughter dynamic,
Yeah.
I have two brothers, so I'm the only girl.
Word.
Dads and daughters have that little special bond. So what's your perspective on that father-daughter dynamic?
So my particular dynamic, I think it really originates from my family because we were a middle class family of four growing up. My older brother, my father, and my mom. And my mom was the only woman in the family. And so my dad, ex-military, he's a pastor. It was a pretty strict household.
Yeah.
My mom was kind of the more lenient one, the softer one. She wasn't weak,
Yeah.
She wouldn't let stuff slide, but she was softer. And so I always kind of came to her with issues, with things, with my emotions. I felt like I could express myself and ask questions that I couldn't ask my dad. So I would just vibe with my mom a little bit more. And so, like, when I started dating and I started thinking about marriage, I started thinking about a family in the future, it was just like, I would love to have a son, but I think I want a girl. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a sister growing up. I just had my mom. And for a time, like when my mom and dad went through their separation and stuff like that, my brother went to Florida for college. It was just her and I. You know, we were homeless for a season, and it was up to me to take care of her, to kind of give back the way that she gave back to me when I was younger, right? So we just have that connection. I just kind of want to pass that on to, if I ended up having a daughter. I just felt like I would vibe with her more. And so I'm glad that I did have a daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing now just how important it is for her to have a man to look up to. She needs her mom. You know what I mean? That's there's no debate, no question about that either. But the way that our custody works, I have her 9 to 10 months of the year.
Okay.
Right? She is largely with me.
Wow. Okay.
So I take care of all of her medical. I take care of all of her schooling. I take care of her Girl Scouts. I take care of, swimming lessons, YMCA. I take care of all that stuff, right? And so our dynamic is I'm her best friend and she's my best friend.
Yeah.
I have to lay down the law, and that sometimes that's hard when I want to roughhouse with her, when I want to take her to the park, when I want to, turn on the Nintendo Switch and whoop her in Mario Kart.
Yeah. It's one of those, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts
Exactly.
you. They just don't get it yet, but they will.
They will. They will. And it's beautiful because I see so much of what I love and hate about myself in her. I don't say that she's the small version of me. I say that I'm the big version of her.
Aw.
Right? She's just such a little twerp. And I'm like, why do you do this? And I think, I did that.
A little taste of your own medicine.
I did that, yeah. And so it's like it's all coming back, and it gives me brand new ways to show affection, to show love, to let her know you're allowed to be sad, you're allowed to be angry, you're allowed to have questions, but also express them in a way that makes sense, express them in a way that isn't offensive, that doesn't harm you, that doesn't harm me. And ultimately, I need to be able to show you what a man does, what a man is, and that you can be wonderful friends with a guy without any agenda or any weird intentions or anything like that. That's totally fine. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to be appropriate. I'm going to show you what a man is supposed to do, how a man is supposed to be around you, because you're a queen. You're being raised to not be a victim of the world. You're being raised to change it. And you don't have to be a man to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I want her so desperately to just understand that, like, age aside, race aside, gender aside, like, I love you. Your family, you're my blood. I'm going to do everything that I can for you. And seeing a man with a baby girl, right? It's different than seeing a man with a son, or a mother with a son, or a mother with a daughter. It's not on a vertical hierarchy. It's on a horizontal hierarchy.
Yeah.
And so, or I won't even say hierarchy, it's just a vertical range. And different people need different things, because it's never one size fits all. You know, but seeing, you know, a black man especially with a beautiful mixed race daughter, it tells a certain story for people who look at us when we're holding hands or doing food reviews together, and they don't really know.
Okay.
They don't know the narrative.
And then that brings another dynamic. I was going to ask, as a black father, and so you mentioned raising your daughter's biracial. Okay. So what's been your experience, you know, with that? And here, you know, you're raising her in Alaska.
Yeah. It is very interesting, because I tend to think of Alaska as comparatively as a racial safe haven. When we think about social stratification, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker the more southeast you go, right? And so you think of, you know, us being a racial safe haven as opposed to Ron DeSantis. You know, and it's like, okay, two totally different things. Yeah. So I feel that, you know, as someone who's darker, you know, she has your skin complexion, which is the same skin complexion as my mom, even though she's completely black. Yeah. So she's always kind of had these really interesting questions of, you know, Daddy, how come all Disney princesses are white? Does that mean that they're pretty and I'm not? You know, or her hair, which is beautiful and curly, but feeling like if my hair doesn't reflect her mother's hair, which is a little more wavy and a little straighter, then she isn't as beautiful, right? And so navigating those things with me, I feel like I need to be a little bit more graceful, I think, you know, because I'm the kind of guy that's like, I just love learning. I'm a sociology major. I love learning about different communities and races, and I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm going to pretend like I don't know so I can continue to learn. And the things that I learn, I pass on to my daughter so I could teach her about civil rights, so I could teach her about anti-racism and what racism is. Because the first time I experienced that in my entire life was when I was in the 4th grade, when I was 9 years old. And now she's in the 4th grade, and she's 9 years old. So I'm not trying to push my trauma onto her, but I'm trying to get her ready just in case someone wants to be a little weird.
Well, it's a different world too. I mean, social media, and you know, they're young and don't have that in class right now, but they're growing up on tablets and they're exposed to way more than what we were, you know, growing up. And I think you're doing a great job of exposing her and, like you said, giving her grace. You know, my daughter has curly hair. I have naturally curly hair for the longest working in TV. I wore my hair straight because I thought that's what quote unquote news anchors should look like. COVID hit and everybody was just kind of losing their mind. And I was like, you know what? I can't keep doing these extensions and straightening my hair. I'm going to go curly. And anyone knows if you go straight from curly all those years, it's kind of a little bit wacky and, you know, on air. But I made that transition 4 years ago. And, you know, my daughter, I wanted to be that example for her because we would straighten the hair. And I told her that's kind of like a fun time when we straighten it. But to express and embrace, you know, your beautiful natural curls. And so when she started to see me just rocking my curls, she's like, okay. And, you know, but it's fun to straighten it every now and then, throw a little piece on. But, it's, you know, they're trying to understand it, you know, with our race and black, it's, my parents are from New Orleans, but growing up, I would always get, well, which one of your parents is black and which one's white? I'm like, well, they're both black. And then they were kind of still pressing, and it wasn't until I said, well, they're from New Orleans, and the Creole light bulb kicked in. Everybody, they felt light skin and kind of you're a melting pot, you know, but you just got to educate people. You do. You got to let them know, and that's great that you're educating her at that young age to let people know. And some people are curious and just, you know, I would say ask. And there's a way to go about it, you know.
Like I always tell people,
what are you?
Nah, you can. There's no such thing as a stupid question until it's a stupid question. Right. You know what I mean? Like I don't want people to be like, you can't come to me if you have a question. Yeah. You know, it's part of my responsibility, I think, to just not get super sensitive and defensive about these sort of things. But like when it comes to, you know, my daughter understanding who like her identity, yeah, she's definitely black, right? But she's also white, and she has an entire family, a totally different heritage and history outside of my own. That's totally different than my own. And I want her to explore that and to not be ashamed of that at all. Like, I want her to love this country based off of the dark truth of it, not this bubblegum idea where America is the good guy in every war and slavery didn't happen and the Civil War wasn't actually about this and that. Like, these terrible things happened.
Yeah.
And that's what makes America America, not this Christopher Columbus discovered America bullcrap. Like, no, like, you need to know the truth about our country, about history, about your heritage, not just your black side, right? Because I'm only half of who you are.
Yeah.
You know, you feel me? So I want her to be proud of her blackness, but not feel like she has to erase her white side in order to be accepted by anybody. She is not half of anything. She's all of so much. And she has a lot of opportunity to experience and explore what that means.
Yeah, oh, I love that. Well, kind of transitioning, I know you said you're divorced. And I don't know, are you entering the dating world? And if so, what is that like? You had mentioned, dating childless partners.
It sucks. Yo,
Let's get right into
dating in Alaska is whack. I don't care what anyone says. I will say this. I have been dating a wonderful woman for the past few months now. We're going on 4 months, so it's still pretty fresh, right? Still pretty new. But I tell you, man, it's crazy out here.
That's another podcast.
That's a whole nother, But it is very interesting for me to date as a parent because some people get it and some people don't. And there's a lot of different dynamics, and I think the ones that I've kind of seen the most are dating single moms who have their own kids, who've been doing their own things, that have their own traumas in trusting men. Because now it's like, you realize you have to bring your kid into that after a certain point, right?
Yeah, not immediately.
Never immediately, but after a certain point, you got to know that, like, we can't spend that much time together because I have to deal with my kid, and I have to deal with my family, and I have to deal with, baby daddy, baby mama, whoever, and that takes time, that takes energy, which means for me, it's going to take grace, it's going to take patience. You feel me? And so right now I'm dating a wonderful young lady who doesn't have kids, right? And so that dynamic is very different because it's like, okay, I need you to understand that, like, my daughter is my priority. She's my world. And there's just going to be some times when you and I are just going to have you and I time. There's going to be times when I'm going to have to, make plans and then, cancel on them because my daughter gets sick.
Right.
You know what I mean? And things like that. And she's completely understanding because
awesome.
She's been through that situation before with someone else, and it wasn't a super healthy situation. So for me, when her and I are talking, she'll say, like, I love the way that you parent. I love the way that you put her first, and without making me feel like I'm just some tertiary, like, you know what I mean? And so right now it's working. And if it doesn't work out in the end, I know that her and I are going to be great friends, but I have no doubt that we're going to go far because of the way that we communicate and because of the way that we understand that, like, who she is in my life, who I am in her life, and who Diana is in both of our lives. Yeah. It's such an important factor. And to be able to trust someone with a kid, no matter how young the kid is. Yeah, it's crazy.
Goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
What would be your advice to single dads out there that are navigating this? Maybe they're just coming into this, it's fresh for them, or they're about to become a parent. What would you say?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Don't forget I'm throwing a hat. Man, everyone has... Everything in society kind of has the chokehold of capitalism on it. You can make a business out of anything. Birth is a business. Death is a business. Education is a business. Religion is a business. People will take parenthood and make it a business. So they'll convince you, buy my book, take my course, do this stuff. And some of that stuff is good. You have to navigate and discern what's real, what's not, what's healthy, what's pertinent to you in your particular situation. But I would say in that, everyone is going to try to teach you how to be a father. And that's something that skills can be taught, soft skills can be taught, hard skills, but at the end of the day, you are your own parent. It's never one size fits all.
It isn't.
And so I want to tell a lot of the dads out there, or the soon-to-be dads out there, take everyone's advice with a grain of salt, right? Because I'm a Christian, right? Jesus sits on the throne of my heart, and that's how I'm raising my kid. But I'm not raising my kid in the faith the way that my dad raised me in it. You feel me?
Yeah.
It has to be different. It has to. I mean, that's just one example, and that's a really pertinent example. But things like that, it has to be different because, like you said, it's a different world.
Yeah.
We have to adapt. We can't just like hold on to like the old ways that grandparents did. There's nothing wrong with culture and acknowledging it. There's nothing wrong with tradition, but some of those things we got to let go.
Yeah.
Some of our own things we got to let go and adapt to new things. Otherwise we're going to be telling our kids what you're doing is wrong when it's not wrong. It's just different. You know what I mean? We need to teach them that college is optional. We need to teach them that like you don't have to get married just because it's the thing to do.
Yeah.
Or go to college just because it's the thing to do. These things will trap you. You will feel defeated in them if you don't go in them with intentionality. If you go in them to impress your parents, it's not going to last. Or impress your friends, it's not going to last. So with parenthood, you got to figure it out on your own and then get help where it's pertinent, but you can't get a mentor to be like, I'm going to teach you exactly what I did.
Yeah.
In very rare cases, is that an available thing? And in very rare cases, is that a helpful thing? It can be if the situation is hyper-specific and hyper-particular. But for the most part, I'm going to tell you, every dad out there, you will figure this out on your own. You're going to figure it out with a partner. You're going to figure it out without a partner. There is just something instilled in us as humans, as men, where when we have to protect someone or something, we go all out.
Yeah.
You know? And from there, we have to navigate it because we don't want to commit no crimes. You know what I mean?
Step back.
Step back, you know?
And it's your daughter.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, same as, there's no rule book to parenting. We've said this over and over in the podcast. You're doing the best you can and giving yourself grace. Mom guilt is huge, I know, for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And when you step back and, like, I just look at her sometimes and she's laughing and she's fun. Like, I'm more in my head about, am I doing a good job than she is, and you just, loving on your kids and being compassionate, and that goes a long way.
It does. And I want to talk real quick about authenticity too, because there is mom guilt, right? Yeah. And
Is there dad guilt?
I kind of feel like it's the reverse, sort of. Because men, stereotypically, especially black men, we're known for not being around. Right? It's the expectation that we are not going to follow through on our word or on our responsibilities. And so all I have to do is walk through the mall with my kid and the women just, it's so, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I could be a total deadbeat at home. I could be abusive. I could be the worst dad of all time, and they don't know. So I get a free pass just because I'm breaking the mold. I'm just showing up for appearances, right? If I was a mom, I would have to do that. I would have to have 3 carts full of stuff. I would I can't even fathom the things that I would have to do just to be appreciated as a mom. But as a single dad out here, I do the minimum and I'm celebrated.
Yeah.
And so authenticity is extremely important because honesty and the truth never needs a defense. The light always comes out. The light will always shine on what the reality is. And then all of a sudden, a few years later, it's like, I thought he was a good dad, but he's in prison because he was doing this and doing that.
Yeah.
So fathers have to stay authentic. Don't do all this stuff for the gram and for Facebook looking like you're a good parent because that's disgusting. You're using your kids, your sons, your daughters, for what? You know what I mean? Like, you could be out there actually being a good man instead of pretending to be a good man. Be a good man. Turn the TV off. Turn the gram off. Put down your phone and just be there for your kids, and don't act like you're there for your kids because we don't know what it's like for a mom that has to juggle. We have to juggle 100 things. Mothers have to juggle 1,000,000 things for their kids. I think men need to be able to have discussions about that, to recognize that, to honor their moms if they were around, their spouses, and just be authentic in that. Because especially for partnerships that are working, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, husband, like we have to talk about celebrating your partner in parenthood, because you're not doing it by yourself. And for the parents that are, just stay authentic.
Yeah.
You do not want to go down that road where, you cannot appreciate what mothers are doing out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, lastly, I like to always give my guests kind of the last word. Anything else that you want to mention or add that I didn't ask or touch on, or just any final thoughts that you would like to say?
I want to say, for everyone out there who is a single parent specifically, right, whether you're dating or not dating, it is a hard road. I know parents whose husbands left them, whose wives left the husband, whose spouse died, and now they got to do it on their own. For whatever reason that you're a single parent, just know that you're not alone. You feel me? Just know that you have to learn how to take care of yourself. There's a whole community out there of trustworthy people that if you let them in, if you give them a chance, they'll be there. Pardon me. They'll be there for you. Excuse me. And they'll be there for your kid. And we all need a little bit of help sometimes. I know that I do.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for my support system. I'm very grateful for my mom and dad. They're not available all the time, but when they are, they're lifesavers,
Oh, grandparents. Yeah, my mom and dad are amazing, and I'm so grateful to be able to be here and have my daughter and my nephews grow up around their grandparents, because my dad was military, moved us away, and so it was just my brothers and I kind of, and then they're boys, so they're like roughhouse. I'm like, you guys want to play Barbies? So
right.
Leaning on your support system, I agree, is huge.
Finding it is huge, yeah. And just learn to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Make the appropriate sacrifices that you got to make, the compromises, but learn to take care of yourself. Find time for the gym. Find time for therapy.
Yeah.
Find time to go to the movies by yourself. Find time to walk. Do what you got to do, because anything that you put in yourself is going to go back into your children. So if you're healthy and taking care of yourself, you're going to be healthy and be able to take care of your kids.
I love that. Well, great talk. I certainly enjoyed talking with you and hearing your story. I appreciate you coming on. And also thank you all for listening to another episode of Parenting in the Far North. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Justin, thanks so much.
Thank you.